The room was quiet, not just the usual quiet of the call center, but something heavier, thicker, like the room was holding its breath. I felt eyes on me. Dozens of masked faces turned in my direction, watching, waiting. I felt my face go red as hot embarrassment washed over me. I ducked my head below my cubicle wall, phone still pressed to my ear. Shit, I was done. Then Mabel spoke again. Wait, Ariana? I wanted to hang up, but something stopped me. I just didn't understand. Why was Mabel on the line? I've heard hundreds of simulated voices plead and beg for a response. I never imagined it could sound like someone you know. I was already reaching to hang up, but she said something strange, something unexpected. Oh, no, she stammered, voice trembling with confusion. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. This wasn't the Mabel I knew. Then she started laughing. Not the light, friendly laugh I remembered. A manic, broken laugh. It didn't stop. I slammed the phone down. I spun around, heart racing, and there she was, a member of HR, standing just at the edge of my cubicle. Black mask, notepad in hand, expression unreadable. She motioned for me to follow. No words, just a slow, deliberate walk toward her office. I sat down in the stiff plastic chair across from her desk, my mind still reeling. The call played on a loop in my head. The voice, the laugh, the way it sounded exactly like Mabel. I couldn't stop shaking. You broke the rules, yes? She asked flatly, scribbling in her notepad without looking up. Yes, but you understand this means you are terminated from the call center, correct? She cut me off with such finality, like it was scripted, like she was reciting lines from a procedure manual. I recognized her, I said. The voice. I thought I picked up my own phone by accident. I thought maybe it wasn't even... That made her pause. She looked up for the first time. Her eyes were sharp behind the mask, almost disappointed. Or was it fear? You thought what? It sounded like someone I knew, a friend of mine. She didn't write anything down now, just stared at me. When you first applied to this job, you answered 2 questions. Do you remember them? I hesitated. My stomach turned. They asked if I was good under pressure and if I knew anyone who worked here. And how did you answer? No, I said no to both. She stared a moment longer, then slowly ripped a sheet of paper from her pad and slid it across the desk. You are hereby terminated from this experiment. You can collect your final check at the location printed on this slip. You've also been granted a severance equivalent to 1 month's salary. I blinked at her. Wait, that's all? She didn't respond. Just went back to typing, like I wasn't there anymore. No explanation, no follow-up about the call, no mention of what I heard, just a polite termination and a severance bonus. I grabbed the paper without reading it and stormed out, past the rows of silent masked employees, past the flickering overhead lights, and out into the daylight. I was halfway to my car when I realized I hadn't even removed my mask. I didn't look back. I felt everything over the next few days. Sadness, anger, confusion. Like my body kept going through the motions, but my mind was stuck on a loop. That voice on the other end of the call, the thing that sounded like Mabel. I didn't know what I was supposed to believe anymore. I held my breath, waiting, but nothing happened. It just sat there, doing nothing. I grabbed a knife and waited. It was bound to come in at some point, but it didn't. Hours passed. I fumbled with my phone. I needed to get in contact with someone. I knew it was futile, but I had to try again. But then I heard something. Not from the phone, from the door. It was Mabel. Hey, Ariana, I'm here. I need your help. I called the number. A voice answered. Cold. Mysterious. They asked me 2 questions. Do you break under pressure? Do you know anyone else who works here? I said no and no. That was it. No background check, no references. Didn't even ask to see the resume I carefully prepared for the occasion. They gave me an address and a time. Simple as that. The onboarding was just as strange as everything else. You'd think I was signing up for some military program or a secret government project. Everyone was tight-lipped. No smiling, no small talk. The rules were simple and unsettling. Arrive at the building exactly when your shift starts. Not a minute early, not a minute late. Keep your mask on the entire time, no exceptions. Don't identify yourself. Don't try to identify anyone else. Do not respond or speak to the caller on the other end of the line. It felt odd to say the least, but I kept telling myself it was just one big experiment. They're paying for data, not for us to help anyone. We're not really answering calls. We're the product, being fed to someone or something higher up the chain. That is what the assessors say at least. Assessors are basically glorified managers. People with a flashy degree and people skills that tell you the voices aren't real. That the people on the other end aren't people at all. They're artificial, synthetic, part of the test and nothing more. Simulations, they say, you're not hurting anyone. It's about resilience, exposure therapy, mental strength. Sure, buddy, I don't know what they are. I refuse to believe they are people. It wouldn't make sense. But they don't act like simulations either. They don't sound fake. They sob. They stutter. They beg for their kids. They talk about the thing outside the closet or the eyes under the bed or monster outside their window. You sit there. You listen. You grip your pen tighter and tighter until the call drops out or the screaming stops or there's that awful, sudden silence like something just grabbed the person out of existence. Then you breathe, you clear your throat, and the phone rings again. You pick up. I've been here 8 months now, not long, but long enough to know the rhythm. This job isn't about smarts or motivation. It's about routine, muscle memory. You have to build your own little rhythm. Listening to terror all day eats at you, breaks you down slowly. I've seen it happen. New masks come in wide-eyed and curious, and by month 2, they're breaking rules or just gone. My routine is pretty straightforward at this point. I get in at 6:45 a.m. sharp, same elevator, same gray carpet, same cubicle by the fire exit. I don't speak to anyone. It's safer that way. Chatter is dangerous for me and for whoever's already picking up calls. At 7 a.m. my phone activates. The light goes on, not a ring, never a ring, just the light. Blue means wait, red means answer, and when it's red, you answer. You don't greet them, you don't ask questions, you just listen. And what you hear, well, they're always running, always hiding, always being chased by something they can't quite describe. A little boy whispering, saying something is scratching at his door. His mom won't wake up. A woman panting, saying she's in the stairwell. Something is coming up behind her fast and the police aren't answering her calls anymore. A man with a crushed voice, locked in a closet. He mutters that he hears footsteps pacing back and forth, right outside, stopping every time he breathes. Different voices, same panic. Some of them say they're in a hallway, or a small bedroom, or under a sink. Sometimes they describe this building, the call center. They'll mention glass double doors, or the color of the carpet, or the smell of coffee from a nearby break room. Sometimes they describe the workers. You have a mask, they'll say. Black gloves. I know you. You can help me. Then they scream. We're not supposed to react, not even a twitch. I've gotten pretty good at it. Neutral face, steady hands. A woman once asked me to sing to her while something chewed its way through her front door. I didn't, but I wanted to. It sticks to you, even after the call ends, especially then. We all handle it differently. Food, puzzles, fidgeting, anything to let out the tension. To cope, I sketch what they describe. Not out of interest or enjoyment, just release. Macabre, maybe, but it makes the images leave my head a little faster. Dark figures, tall shadows, doorways broken and bloody, a lot of staircases. And then, just when I start to forget, the light turns red again. The first few days were the hardest, but then my first check came in. After just 1 month on the job, I paid off my student loans. That crushing weight finally lifted. I felt like I could breathe again. A month later, I bought my first car, used but reliable. Then I paid off my credit card debt. For the first time in years, the numbers in my bank account weren't a burden I needed to figure out. Now, I live in a multi-bedroom loft right in the city, the kind of place with exposed brick walls and big windows that let in way too much sunlight. I'm driving the car I used to drool over in magazines, the one I thought I'd never afford. The money washes away the guilt at this point. Synthetic, manufactured guilt. Like a fresh coat of paint covering the grime beneath. Except the grime is just as processed as the paint at this point. Maybe that was the point all along. Just an expensive, extravagant experiment. A cold corporate bet that people will do almost anything for the right amount of cash, even if it means listening to fake snuff calls for hours on end. That's what I told myself. The calls were just noise, background static to the paycheck, until I heard something I never expected. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was halfway through my shift, eyes drifting between the crossword puzzle I'd started yesterday and the dull glow of my screen. I was a little hungover, my head still fuzzy from last night's bad decisions. Maybe that's why I was so caught off guard. Maybe that is why I made this horrible mistake. The phone turned red. I picked up instinctively, my eyes still fixed on the crossword puzzle. Hello, is anyone there? I need help. The voice was faint but unmistakable. It was her, Mabel. For a split second, I forgot where I was. Thought maybe I'd picked up my personal phone by mistake. My heart started to hammer. "Mabel?" I whispered before I could stop myself. We've all heard of odd jobs before. Quirky social media gigs, requests from strangers on the internet, sometimes legit, mostly illegal. I want to warn you about my latest venture. The premise is simple but confusing. You are paid to answer calls, but you can only listen. If you talk back, if you say anything at all, you're done. There's a certain uneasiness in the building. It's not the lights or the computers or the AC rumbling through the white-paneled ceiling. It's deeper than that, a quiet, unnerving buzz. You'd be surprised how many people there are in this office. It's quiet, but it isn't silent. Never silent. If you sit still long enough, if you really listen, you can hear them, the voices. "Please," they say, "I don't know where I am. Something is outside the door. I need help." But no one responds. No one ever does. 2 cubes down, Martha, that's what I call her, is filling out a crossword. She taps her acrylic nails against her desk like she's typing away at an invisible keyboard. Then there is Debbie. Again, not her name. But she seems like a Debbie. She is tall, brunette, and eating the same cheap parfait she brings in every day. I think it's strawberry flavored. Nobody talks here, not out loud, not unless they still want to work here. We don't wear name tags. We don't introduce ourselves. We don't even wear our own faces. Everyone's assigned a mask, not the sanitary kind, not the Halloween kind either. They start just below the forehead and stop just above the mouth. They say it's part of the experiment. What experiment? Nobody really knows. That's kind of the whole point. We're not here to understand. We're here to follow instructions. Answer the call. Don't say anything. Let them speak. Let them scream. Let them beg. Just sit there with the phone pressed to your ear and listen until the line goes dead. That's it. That's the job. It seems cheap, gimmicky almost, like we're part of the latest reality TV series where cameramen are hiding in bushes with ulterior motives. I thought the same at first, but if there is something that doesn't lie, it's money and lots of it. That's why I'm here. I'm Ariana, 19 years old, college dropout, a few semesters in, then I quit. Way too much debt, too little hope. I spent weeks scouring every corner of the internet for something, anything, that could get me back on my feet, even if just for a while. That's when Mabel introduced me to her profession. Mabel was unique, always dressed sharp. Nice car, good career, Chanel bag casually tossed over her shoulder, a very independent woman. We have been friends for a while now, but she always kept me at arm's length. Sure, we would go out and have a nice time together, bond over past relationships and mutual interests. But there was something mysterious about her. She never really talked about her work. I assumed it was drugs or some kind of shady side hustle. But when she saw how down on my luck I was, she took pity, handed me a business card. And then, just as quickly, told me she never gave me that card. "If anyone asks you, I didn't give you that card. You don't know Mabel, and Mabel don't know you," she said sharply. Apparently, that was against the company's rules. Nobody can know anyone else who works there. I was confused, but curious.